own actions. So that's what you should expect on the financial sanctions front. On export controls, what you can see is that over time, this is going to atrophy Russia's capacity to diversify outside of just oil and gas, to modernize the strategic sectors that Putin himself has said he wants to develop: aerospace, defense, IT, lasers, sensors. These sectors all depend on foundational technologies designed and produced by the West. You will begin to see a chilling effect take hold in Russia as those inputs are denied.
Thank you. For weeks now, administration officials have repeatedly said, yourself included, that these sanctions are meant to deter and prevent Putin from moving forward, from acting. Can you help us understand why the president said today that no one expected the sanctions to prevent anything from happening? And then secondly, on a quick one on Putin sanctions, without talking about when you might trigger them, can you help us understand what harm they would do to him personally if you were to sanction him?
Look, on your first question, we don't usually engage in hypotheticals up here at this podium, but let's play this out. Had we unleashed our entire package of financial sanctions preemptively, I think a couple of things might have happened. Number one, President Putin might have said, look, these people are not serious about diplomacy. They're not engaging in a good faith effort to promote peace. Instead, they're escalating. That could provide a justification for him to escalate and invade. Secondly, he could look at it as a sunk cost. In other words, President Putin could think, I've already paid the price. Why don't I actually take what I paid for, which is Ukraine's freedom? So that's what we wanted to avoid. Look, ultimately, the goal of our sanctions is to make this a strategic failure for Russia. And let's define a little bit what that means. Strategic success in the 21st century is not about a physical land grab of territory. That's what Putin has done. In this century, strategic power is increasingly measured and exercised by economic strength, by technological sophistication, and your story, who you are, what your values are. Can you attract ideas and talent and goodwill? And on each of those measures, this will be a failure for Russia.
No, I'm sorry, I don't think she's not done yet.
On President Putin.
But is it fair to say no one expected the sanctions to prevent anything? You certainly expected that, right?
Look, we signaled as clearly as we could what was coming if Russia proceeded with an invasion. As I mentioned before, economic costs of this severity generally matter to any leader because of the effect it has on his people's living standards. In this case, Putin made the wrong choice.
Has been pressuring allies to still reject Russia from the SWIFT system. Can you say if the U.S. is still intensely working to pressure allies to do the same? How intensely are you guys?
I can't comment on what the UK's position is. I'm not going to speak to that. But what I'll say is the sanctions measures we impose today, I think without question, were the most consequential ever levied on Russia, and arguably the most consequential ever levied in history, if you look at the aggregate financial impact on Russia. So that's why we took the measures that we did. And we did so because we could move in lockstep with our allies and partners, and because we think the spillover effects will be manageable.
Is this still a realistic live round? Is the U.S. really still making an intense effort for this, or is it essentially...
This being SWIFT? Look, again, I'm just going to repeat. All options are on the table, and we're prepared to ratchet costs higher at a time and place of our choosing. And, President Putin should take that seriously after what he saw today.
Let Michael ask this question. Go ahead, Michael.
Same question. First, if you were to sanction Vladimir Putin, do you know where his money is?
Not going to comment on that.
Secondly, what is the message to Russia at this point on what it would take to roll back, relieve some of the sanctions that he's put in place today?
Look, the road to diplomacy is always open. Diplomacy is never dead. But in the current circumstance, in the immediate aftermath of an invasion, that option is not available. Right now, we're imposing severe consequences on Russia for its decisions.